Tampa Bay Business Journal hits newsstands today, and as always, editor Alexis Muellner is here to talk about some of the week's big stories. Happy Friday. Good to see you.
Always a pleasure.
Nice to see you again. We're starting this morning with new details about the plan for light rail in downtown Tampa. I guess we could say they're kind of up in the air right now.
Well, they're at 25 feet up in the air, potentially. There's a lot of discussion about light rail, and they're still trying to figure out where the routes are going to go as a USF to downtown, to West Shore, the airport. That's still in the process of being worked out. It may not happen before the election. But what we report this week is that if it does, it needs to go through downtown. One thing that has not been discussed is that it's going to need to be elevated. There's going to be some elevated routes. That's partly because of the CSX tracks that exist and issues related to crossing the river and working out what's going to happen in downtown. You know, you've seen the L in Chicago and the Metro Mover in places like Miami. We might need to have some elevated tracks to work out the connection points in downtown so that it moves smoothly. And this is just one area that could add cost, potentially business opportunities for people. But it's just one part of the discussion that we, begin to raise and bring up here.
Something that hadn't been talked about yet.
No, it could lend issues about how much this is actually going to cost in the end.
Okay, we're going to move on now to the governor's race. It's likely that our next governor will be a former business executive, both Alex Sink and Rick Scott, both business executives. So you ask them, if they were elected governor, how they go about changing business in the state.
Yeah, we wanted to get the governor's race down to business, as it were. Alex Sink's talking about trying to cut back on corporate incentives, cut back on the corporate tax, to incentivize businesses like solar and some other ways to get more in-state businesses active on state contracts. Rick Scott is talking about getting rid of the corporate tax, deregulating a lot of the potential regulation that affects business, and also trying to use the university assets and grow that. So there's a lot more in the paper about their stand and what they would do to grow business in the state.
Okay, we're moving on now to tourism. It's not oily beaches, but misconceptions about oily beaches. There's
something on November 6th called the Great Visit Florida Beach Walk, and they're encouraging people through social media to get on the beach and walk, and they want everybody along the entire expanse to upload those photographs. Apparently, in the tourism industry, there's still a real big impact by the oil spill. We see pristine beaches, but there's this perception lingering in our key markets that, in fact, the beaches are cluttered with oil, and the oil never got here, but in fact, the tourism industry says it's hurting, and it needs this help to spread the word in a grassroots way that the beaches are ready to be accessed and used.
And of course, the tourism industry wants all of us to do our part and tell our friends in other parts of the country to come on down.
Yeah, and it's such a critical industry to Florida, and it affects so much of the other business and vendors and all the economy that these are important things.
A cheap way to get the word out.
Yeah, I think that's part of the issue as well.
All right, thanks, Alexis. Always good to see you.
Likewise, dear.
And for more Business Journal headlines, go to our website, abcactionnews.com/business.